So I think we got a lot to do to find out that, the understanding the purpose of have them put together and who will use them. So I think, just a comment to that question, I think that when we think and the use of the current web and the use of the web archives is totally different, maybe.
I think that's very true. I mean, we're really still very much in the early days of the use of web archives, and it's not at all clear the myriad ways in which this material can be usefully exploited. In our case, for scholarly purposes, but more generally for a variety of purposes. We're certainly seeing quite a lot of interest in our own collections, quite heavy with regard to historians, political scientists, who are seeing this as a sort, an alternative source of of news, contemporaneous news items.
So to follow up on that, we did a study last year, published at JCL, and we looked at log analysis in the Internet Archive. And basically it was, well, first it was mostly robots that were accessing things. But when you threw out the robots and identified the humans, most people were just grabbing individual pages. There was very little in a model of extended browsing like it was, 1999. Now the flip side of that is, are the tools actually influencing the use, right? Is there actually demand for extended sessions? And that's one of the things Memento is trying to do with the Chrome extension, is look for tighter integration. So right now we have this idea that you'll go spend the afternoon in the archive, right? And that, I don't think the logs bear that out. I don't think that's what people want. I think people really do want to flip between the current web and the past web, often find pages that have gone for
So my question actually is about Memento. So nice transition, thank you. Can you imagine using Memento as part of the web archiving process to capture sort of memento links of links that go outside of the space that you're archiving, so that you're linking to archives or potential archives of pages, such that you're not, in addition, maybe even for things that are shortened, right? So if you have a bit.ly URL, if you could convert that into the real URL, but really the Memento version of the real URL of the day that you archived whatever you grabbed, then you might start getting something that was a little more durable when you go back to look at it in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's several aspects to that question. The first is the generic statement that shortened URIs are really evil. So despite the fact that I put it on my slide, do as I say, not as I do. But right, and I think a scenario where Bitly disappears all of a sudden, then a lot of the Twitterverse is gone, and we have no way of matching A to B again. So trying to more proactively interact with the notion of generating URIs and also archiving URIs at the same point, and publishing both the link basically to the live version of the web and a link into the archive of the archived version of that resource would certainly be beneficial. However, we have to be careful that we know that archives disappear. Mummify is gone. Web Citation was in danger last year and is now back up, it seems, for a while anyways. Maybe Memento disappears at some point, right? So we need to be agnostic not only towards archives but also towards technologies, and be careful that we don't create another silo and put ourselves in another corner and just create one problem. Remove one problem by creating another.
We've already shown that you can reconstruct pages and get a great deal more completeness by using Memento to search across the 15 or so public archives that you can gain access to. There's this weird aspect though, if I reconstruct a page and I pull from 15 different archives to reconstruct that page, then actually the stability goes down, because when I go back to that page and hit reload tomorrow, those archives, surely somebody's going to be down and so forth. So we can actually increase the completeness, but actually potentially lose some stability by actually pulling from multiple archives. So this actually suggests that we need to archive the specific archival rendering that we saw at a particular time. And, so it's like job security all the way through.
Okay. Question over here.
have a question that may try to combine at least two of the presentations, perhaps all three. Jimmy, I was struck by one of the first things you wanted to do in terms of doing a kind of data analysis of your data set was topic modeling, which is a very kind of text-based kind of analysis. And then Michael goes up there and exposes the potential downfalls of doing something beyond text analysis, that if you want to do something that combines the visual and the textual, or just the visual, you could be running into some very kind of sticky issues. And so I'm wondering, from a preservation standpoint, how do we think about archiving these data sets to open up visualizations, to open up use scenarios that are beyond just the textual, beyond just capturing the news, capturing the media. And as a kind of corollary, I'm wondering if any of you wanted to comment on some of the commercial ways of trying to archive the web. I'm thinking of, for example, Pocket. I noticed that they have a premium service that says you can archive the websites you want to archive, and we will preserve it forever and ever. And whether that kind of commercial intrusion is beneficial or perhaps muddying the waters a little bit for the efforts that you guys are proposing.
So maybe on the last aspect of that, in general, I would probably support the point, the more the merrier in terms of web archiving. We've seen, again, that even archives are in danger of disappearing, and what happens to Mummify, as far as I know, tried something very similar. You got 10 mummies for free, and everything else they charge you, a monthly rate or something like that. It didn't work out. So I don't think a lot of people have actually found a viable business model to do web archiving. But nevertheless, we learned yesterday that big data is sexy, so you can actually be pretty sexy by dealing within an archive. However, something like Memento, whether it's Memento or something else, enables you to be really, really sexy by by using more than just the inner archive. So that's the more the better. Be irresistible.
We certainly think that it's important that the Academy is able to keep and maintain effective control certainly over its own content of all sorts, not just web archiving. So always have a jaundice aside when people start talking about commercial alternatives. Certainly, any claim of forever, you need to take that with a great grain of salt, even when we make it. But at least we represent very long-lived institutions that have hundreds of years of track record of managing these important intellectual assets.
So for me, the focus on text is simply searching under the lamppost. So I'm a text processing information retrieval person, so that's my natural instinct. But yes, you're absolutely right. There is a lot of value in the media, videos, images, etc. that are also captured, but they're just a lot harder to work with. And they're also a lot bigger, and so that increases the processing requirements needed. Right, so analyzing text pages is one thing, but to analyze individual frames in YouTube videos or something along those lines requires even more processing horsepower.
Mr. Abrams used the word news, and somebody out there used the word media. And as someone who has actually been vetted media, I have to caution people as to what the word has been torqued to be today. You're doing an awful lot of archiving, but of whom? And anything you're saving by someone who doesn't take time to go up the old-fashioned thing called a book to vet details oftentimes becomes broken telephone. So I'm very concerned as to how the future is going to be rewritten by people that are very impassioned, opinionated, and aren't real media, didn't have editors, and never cracked a book, and went to, for example, a Wikipedia. And I only out of deference to the gentleman from Missouri School of Journalism, I really think that everybody here needs to visit the journalist creed that school was founded upon. And I will tell you, I lived through 2008 when members of the press club were freaking out because entities were shuttering daily, and they would set up blogs and then anything that got them a hit is where they followed. So definitely look at the journalist creed. A little thing about Dianne Feinstein and her definition of media. I did paper trails that took me to Germany and other countries that sell credentials that got people into parties they had no right being anywhere near the dignitaries, but it was a fake pass that let them be part of a moment or the rave. So there are real journalists, but not in the way that it's oftentimes misinterpreted. You have to question and push back on someone that uses that term.
And certainly the collections that we're responsible for, I mean, there are curators behind all of those things, and they are making the normal sorts of curatorial and collection development decisions as they would for any other types of materials. And in our system, they also have an opportunity to provide certain surrounding intellectual context in which the Web Archive material is presented. I can't say that all of them take advantage of that to the fullest, but there are opportunities to put cautionary statements if that in fact seems to be useful or necessary.
Once you putting it out there, consider developing like a good housekeeping seal of approval type of thing to show people that an upper right corner always will even know these Kazakh pages. Put something out there that says this has been vetted. And we all know the stories of even the New York Times in Glass and journalists that plagiarize, but maybe consider that as in the University of Maryland. Put your students on developing a way to have a seal that people can look to and feel a little bit more comfortable about the veracity of the data.
Yeah, I think you would raises some interesting questions about who would be doing that evaluation and what their credentials were to make that type of a decision. I mean, certainly in the libraries, we try to get out of the arena of making qualitative assessments. We don't consider that to be really within our purview.
Yeah, I think we're
Okay. I guess we're out of time now. So please join me in thanking my colleagues for